The 7 o'clock hour, Sam Monson, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, as we'll take a look at the Jaguars, the AFC South, particularly the new rookie quarterbacks in the AFC South, as again, we are just over a month away from some of the first players reporting to NFL training camps all over the National Football League. But as we do every night, to kick it off here on Hacker After Dark, we do give you a big deal of the night and Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
Now, there are a couple of big deals that I want to get into. Number one, Mark Lamping joined XL Primetime earlier today as Jaguar team president. I want to let you hear some of his thoughts coming up in just a moment. More on the potential renovations to the stadium, how things are looking. I'll tell you this, I have not yet been at one of these, I guess, town halls is what they're calling them. But by all indications, these things are packed, a lot of information getting presented to folks, a lot of good questions being asked. The venues have had to be changed a couple of times because they just weren't going to be able to hold the amount of people that wanted to be there, which is a good sign. To me, it's a very good sign. So we'll let you hear some of the thoughts of Jaguar team president Mark Lamping, who was on 1010XL earlier today. That comes up in one moment. But I do want to begin with the Florida Gators. What an interesting Saturday it was on the recruiting trail. If you're a Florida Gator football fan, particularly a Florida Gator recruiting fan, I think that your Saturday probably did not start out very well, as 2025 four-star quarterback Austin Simmons reclassified to the class of 2023 and, by the way, decided to flip his commitment to Ole Miss. So there was a thought Saturday morning among people that I knew, text messages I got, reaction on social media, that, oh no, here we go again, the sky is falling for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators on the recruiting trail. That is not the case, because in the last 48 hours, Florida has picked up not one, not two, not three, but six verbal commitments, including four-star commitments. And it started on Saturday, 3 from the state of Georgia. They added another player from Georgia today, so they have gone into the Peach State and gotten 4 players from Georgia. They also added a prospect from North Carolina, and they added Aaron Childs, who is the number 1 player in the state of Maryland, a 4-star linebacker. Now, Aaron Childs, Amir Jackson, Amaris Williams, and Nasir Johnson, 4 of the 6 commitments they've received in the last 2 days, are all among the top 250 players on 247sports.com. Clearly, whatever Florida is selling to these recruits is working, because that was arguably the biggest day Florida's had on the trail, getting 4 4-star guys, and it was obviously like staged or pre-planned, because every one of them committed like 90 minutes after the other one. So Florida recruiting on social media was in the news all day on Saturday, with 1 commitment, 90 minutes later, a second commitment, and then so on and so forth till they got all 4 commitments announced. And then earlier today, Florida receives a couple other commitments, including Marcus Maskell, an offensive tackle, who chose the Gators over North Carolina State and LSU. Here's the one thing that Gator fans you need to know about these recruits. I'm not going to pretend to tell you I know a lot about these guys. I don't cover recruiting to the extent that I used to when I did it for Gridiron Now, so it's not a foreign world to me, but certainly not one that I am as up to date on as I was, say, 4 or 5 years ago. But one thing I always do when it comes to recruits is I look to see who Team A, who got the guy, beat for that prospect. Who were the teams being considered? You look at Aaron Childs. He was down to Florida and Michigan. He chose Florida. You look at Amir Jackson. That was a Florida-Penn State situation. He verbaled to Florida. You look at Amaris Williams. Miami and Auburn were involved there. He chose Florida. And Nasir Johnson, that I believe was a Florida State situation, and he ultimately verbaled to the Florida Gators. So again, are these guys going to be the turning point for Billy Napier in the football program? Are they going to lead the resurgence? I have no idea. I'm just giving you the information because it happened less than 48 hours ago. But for the first time in a while, Florida beat LSU for a guy today, Marcus Maskell, the offensive tackle. Florida beat Florida State for a guy, Nasir Johnson, the big-time D lineman out of Georgia. Florida beat Michigan for the number one player in the state of Maryland, and Florida beat Penn State for a 6'4", 225-pound tight end. That can't be a bad thing, right? I'm not necessarily ready to call it a good thing, a resurgence, the beginning of Gator Nation coming back. I'm not jumping to that conclusion. But everything I just mentioned for you Gator fans has to be a positive, right? There's nothing negative about beating these big-time Power 5 programs for these four-star players. So whatever Billy Napier has done in the last couple of days has certainly worked. By the way, DJ Lagway, who is the headliner for the Gator 2024 recruiting class, competed out at the Elite 11 camp out in the state of California. Andrew Ivins, 247sports.com, was out there, had a chance to catch up with him earlier today. We'll let you hear some of those comments probably tomorrow on Hacker After Dark. So that's the Gator recruiting side of things. The Gator baseball team, good grief. What a couple of wins in Omaha. Are you kidding me? Come from behind, scoring 3 runs in the bottom of the ninth to beat Virginia on Friday. What a win for the Florida Gators. And to turn around yesterday, be up 5-1. Oral Roberts puts 3 on the board to make it 5-4. Kevin O'Sullivan with just an absolute managerial blunder in taking too many trips to the pitcher's mound. Neely, their All-American closer, has to come out. They got to put in a true freshman out there to pitch who really didn't even get a chance to warm up. Bases loaded, 5-3 ball game. He enters in the bottom of the ninth in Omaha. Are you kidding me? And Florida finds their way out of that to win that game, to get to 2-0. They don't have to play now until Wednesday. They will play the winner of an elimination game on Tuesday between TCU and Oral Roberts. Whoever wins that game between TCU and Oral Roberts will have to beat Florida twice. Once on Wednesday, once on Thursday. So the Gators find themselves 1 win away from reaching the final of the College World Series in Omaha. So congratulations to the Gators. Boy, nail-biting city for Gator fans on both Friday and Sunday. But I was into it, man. I was picking up my wife and my son from the airport last night, so I'm sitting in one of those rocking chairs, right, as the guys and gals are coming in off the plane, and I got it on my phone, and I'm just living and dying on every pitch. It was fun. It was a good ball game. There is no question about that. Tennessee eliminated Stanford earlier today in the College World Series. Right now, LSU and Wake Forest are playing in a winner's bracket game, so we'll keep you updated on that going on out in Omaha. So that, to me, was the big deal from the Gator perspective, the College World Series and what Florida is doing on the recruiting trail with Billy Napier, because it's been a very solid couple of days for the Gators in that regard. I mentioned Mark Lamping, Jaguar team president, who was on earlier today with XL Primetime. He said a lot of things that we sort of already knew. Again, Mark's been making the rounds, been making himself very accessible, talking about this renovated stadium, talking about pros and cons of a 2-year plan and a 4-year plan, really laying it out there. I will tell you, on Saturday, played my first round of golf in 7 years. We get to the 19th hole. We weren't really talking about our round of golf. There was a bunch of guys gathered around, and we're all talking about the stadium and the renovations and will it happen and where do they play, where do they need to play, what's going to go on. So certainly that's on the forefront of a lot of minds here in the city of Jacksonville. So Mark Lamping earlier today on XL Primetime, this is something maybe that I hadn't thought of, and boy, I got some thoughts on this. The whole 2-year versus 4-year plan, we'll explain it in a second, but Mark Lamping talked about that today as far as will the Duval residents most likely decide on that situation.
The residents of Duval County will in all likelihood, let their elected officials know what their preference is. It will be the city, and as far as the Jaguars are concerned, we're obviously going to want to make sure that we understand the position of all of our fans and other stakeholders. It's not a clear recommendation at this point. There are very valid points of view on both approaches.
So that's Mark Lamping earlier today. I mean, we talked about this last week. For those that missed that conversation, I'm assuming most of you heard it because you're just diehard Hacker After Dark listeners. When this show comes on, you just tear off the radio dial and you never miss a second of the action here weeknights on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. But in the strange event that you didn't hear the thoughts that I had last week on this is a no-brainer. Again, I don't understand this. 2 years is less expensive. The stadium gets done by 2028 and not 2030. You don't have to start it and then stop it for football. And if you do the 4-year plan, which means the games stay here in Jacksonville, you're playing in the middle of a construction zone. You're playing next to cranes and tractors and mountains of dirt and debris and glass and rubble and metal and you name it. And can you imagine what the parking would be down there? Do you think that'll be a whole lot of fun to tailgate in for 4 years, playing in the middle of a construction zone? Why anybody wants to do that, I simply do not know. I cannot imagine a scenario where that is a better option than going somewhere else for 2 years. Again, the 2-year plan is least expensive. The 2-year plan gets the stadium done quicker. We get to enjoy it quicker. And the 2-year plan, to me, is an absolute no-brainer from everything I just mentioned. And again, Orlando, Gainesville, where else? Daytona, right? We've heard all these different venues. Well, Hacker, where are you going to play the games? If the team moves for 2 years, where are you going to play them? I'll say this until I'm blue in the face. I don't care. Play them wherever. Where they play these games is non-consequential to me. Because if they're playing somewhere else, that means that stadium deal got passed. That means that bad boy is getting renovated in downtown Jacksonville, and I don't care where they play. Play out on Old St. Augustine Road. If I had 100 yards on my driveway, I would field turf and then come play out there for all I care. Go play at Wolfson. Go play at Mandarin, Inglewood, Bowles. Play wherever you want. If they're playing somewhere else, that means we're not doing that 4-year nonsense where you're playing in a construction zone. That means the stadium's getting renovated. It's getting built up. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be least expensive, and we're going to be in there in 2028. If you have to decide where you're playing games outside of Jacksonville, that is a good thing. That is a good thing. Tomorrow morning, when you're getting ready for work and you're getting ready to go make it happen all over Northeast Florida, and you're splashing some water on your face and you're brushing your teeth, I want you to think about this. I want you to repeat after me when you're looking in the mirror. The 2-year plan is a good thing because it doesn't matter where the games are being played. It means that stadium's being done, and they're going to get in there quicker. The 4-year plan to me makes no sense. I'll listen to people who have an argument for it, but I'm pretty sure, because I've talked to numerous people in this regard, when I bring up the whole construction zone thing, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Well, what do you expect to happen when they're doing almost $2 billion of renovations? They're just going to magically make all that construction stuff just disappear, and it's going to look exactly like it does right now? Are you kidding me? It's going to be a nightmare down there. Let them get in there. Let them do it in half the time. Let them get it done. Suck it up and play 2 years somewhere else. Those are my thoughts. Maybe I'm being too simplistic about it, but I just cannot imagine anybody that would want 4 years of playing games in a construction zone in downtown Jacksonville. Mark Lamping was asked about London, and the question that a lot of you have asked me, I'm very curious what Mark Lamping said here. Will London go away with renovations in the stadium of the future if that thing gets built downtown?
If we do the stadium the way it's designed, the revenue disparity between Jacksonville and London should be diminished a bit. And while we understand it's something that will need to be negotiated, and we're open to negotiate what it is, there have been some positive things, and we don't necessarily want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but
Right.
it will be something that will be negotiated, and we're prepared to talk about it.
Quickly, Denmark, let's do one more from Lamping. It's a long one, but I think it's important for people to hear. With the renovations, 2 years, 4 years, well, regardless of what it is, I can't imagine Florida, Georgia will be played here at all during those renovations. Mark Lamping, the Jaguar team president, was asked about the cocktail party earlier today as well.
I think the single most important sporting event that happens in Jacksonville each year is the Florida-Georgia, Georgia-Florida game, and we need to protect that. And the schools are really excited about the design. I've shared it with them before we shared it publicly. We asked them for their input. We asked them, what do you want to see in this new stadium that'll make you feel even better about your game being in Jacksonville? And we talked about the scenario, and the discussion has been pretty simple, that they pick up their option through 2025, which they've done. And then if we begin construction in 26 and 27, the goal would be that they would return the game to campus for those 2 years, just like they did in the mid-'90s, and then they would have already agreed to bring the game back starting in 2028.
Right.
So, the idea, and I don't think I'm saying anything that everyone isn't aware of. Kirby Smart has made some points about wanting the game to be on campus. If you let 4 years of games go back to campus, it's going to be a lot harder to get it back. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it makes it a lot harder.
It's a great point. Now, look, I was thinking about the construction part of it and playing in a construction zone. And, again, I'm just baffled by when I tell folks that, it's not going to be like the experience you have now. You're going to be playing in just rubble, right? There's going to be a stadium in the middle of rubble. Parking lots are going to be obliterated. Things are going to be all over the place. Why would you want to do that? Well, Mark Lamping makes a great point. Florida, Georgia's not going to be here regardless. Do you want them gone for 2 years or 4 years? That's another incentive to do the 2-year plan. Remember, look at yourself in the mirror. The 2-year plan is a good thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars and for that stadium of the future. A good thing for us is Keith Neighbor, on3.com. He's a great recruiting analyst. He's recently relocated to the state of Florida. Was from here originally. Spent 10 years covering the Auburn Tigers, but he came back at a very interesting time. Billy Napier got 6 guys to commit to the University of Florida in the last 48 hours. I want to talk to Keith about that. I want to talk to Keith about Austin Simmons committing and going to Ole Miss. And where is Billy in the grand scheme of things? Now, 3 recruiting classes in. This will be his 3rd recruiting class. Where is he, and where should he be 3 years in? All that coming up here on Hacker After Dark with Dylan Denmark, the Hacker Ryan Green with you on a Monday night edition of Hacker After Dark. Jacksonville, we're glad you're with us. It's 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Tell me, do you remember anything?
Happiness. And you know what happiness is? Happiness
is 1010XL.
Okay, good tip.
Hey, this is Jason with Bueller Air Conditioning. Why do we love to go to that awesome grocery store where shopping is a pleasure? Why do we choose that amazing chicken sandwich where the service is fast and friendly and it's always their pleasure? You see, those brands are a promise. Here at Bueller Air, our team is committed to serving the customer and delivering that same kind of brand promise. Our mission is to be the most trusted brand with friendly and professional service every single time. Give us a call today or visit BuellerAir.com.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, trunk lids, license plate holders, and headlights. They've got lots of headlights. When you need parts, get it right the first time with eBay Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's gonna fit. eBay Motors. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Hacker here for the Sausage Dude Sausage, the sausage partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Sausage Dude Sausage is made from high-quality pork and carefully sourced spices that make it the best sausage I've ever tried. You can pick up the Sausage Dudes at Publix locations all throughout Jacksonville. Try the Polish, Hungarian, beer bratwurst with cheddar and jalapeno, or my favorite, the Italian. 4th of July is right around the corner, so head to Publix today to get your hands on the Sausage Dude Sausage.
I'm Dr. Mitchell Yass, the most unknown world-renowned expert on pain elimination. That's right, elimination. If you've tried medications, injections, physical therapy, chiropractic, even surgery, and still experience pain, then say yes to Yass. I have successfully used the Yass method for over 30 years to help thousands reclaim their lives. To learn more, call me at 904-906-YASS. Let's end your pain and say yes to Yass.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On June 19, 1973, Pete Rose and Willie Davis both record their 2000th MLB career hit, a single over the Giants and a homer against the Braves.
Life is about choices and the decisions you make. I'm David Robbins with Epstein & Robbins. If you're convicted of a DUI, you'll have to face severe consequences. Walking through the doors of the courthouse or appearing at a bond hearing can be extremely intimidating. Without the right lawyer, you're likely to make the wrong decision. Let our team help you make the right decisions in court. Epstein & Robbins, the right choice.
Epstein & Robbins, fighting for your rights since 1975.
Oh boy, not again.
Do you feel this way every time there's rain in the forecast? Amy Salt, owner of CrossFit Salt to Tear in the Riverside area, definitely did.
I had major rain anxiety from all the water collecting outside my gym. That's why I'm so happy I reached out to Clearwater Drainage. John came out, designed a system that moved the water off of my property, and all my kettlebells are now dry. I'm sleeping so much better at night.
Clearwater Irrigation.
And drainage, too.
ClearwaterJacks.com. Need cash? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn has cash available. Ready to buy guitars, surfboards, jewelry, firearms, tools, and especially gold. They need it all. Selling or pawning, get cash on the spot at Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach.
Mark Watson with Hardball Creative. For the new year, check out the new gear at hardballcreative.com and make sure your employees are sporting your logo on the newest and coolest apparel.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
Cataracts can take a toll on the quality of a loved one's life. Maybe it's even your parents or someone close to you. Hey, Hicken here. I've been talking to you about Bowden Eye. And it turns out renowned cataract care is right here at Bowden Eye & Associates. Their doctors help those with cataracts feel hopeful, sometimes for the first time in a long time. If someone you love is suffering from cataracts, schedule a visit for a personal consultation. 3 locations to serve you, including the new office on County Road 210 in St. Johns County.
From the moment the first note is played, the music takes over. Grammy winner Peter Frampton. Never Say Never Tour. June 28th, St. Augustine Amphitheater. The one and only Peter Frampton. On sale now at theamp.com.
Does your home or building need painting? For over 20 years, Performance Painting has had the privilege of preserving many of Jacksonville's most prominent buildings. That said, we feel like we're just getting started. I'm Jason Parker, and our team thrives on preparing, protecting, and preserving the homes, businesses, and public buildings that make up our local landscape. Contact us today to put our years of experience to work for you. Performance Painting. Prepare, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars, protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The middle part of June, and boy, it's been a very interesting 48 hours or so at the University of Florida on the recruiting trail. Saturday morning started out, you thought terribly, right? When a quarterback decommits and commits to another SEC school, but yet Florida has received 6 commitments since then. Good grief. Let's talk about all of it. Keith Niebuhr on 3.com does a terrific job covering the University of Florida, and he's with us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Keith, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on, man?
Hey, Keith, always appreciate the time. And before we really dive into Florida, you're new to the Gators side of things, but boy, you've been covering recruiting for a long, long time. I followed your terrific work out there when you covered Auburn for many years. Tell the good folks here in Jacksonville about On3 and the coverage they're providing for the Florida Gators.
Yeah, I covered Florida previously years ago, and I went to the University of Florida, grew up in Gainesville. God, when I was a kid, I career shadowed Sam Kuvaris, of all people, the old, I think it was Channel 4 in Jacksonville, the sports director there years ago. So I've got a real, strong knowledge of North Central Florida, the Jacksonville and all that. So I kind of knew the lay of the land and always knew I was going to come back and cover Florida. And if you're going to get prepared to cover Gators recruiting, what better preparation could you get than from covering the Auburn Tigers for 10 years? I mean, it is wild. It's an incredibly passionate and wonderful fan base up there. I lived in Atlanta the whole time and really got a feel for things in the Southeast on the recruiting landscape. So now I'm covering Florida, love it. Back where I belong, living in Tampa, going up to Gainesville once or twice a week to talk to people, and then traveling the state and getting to know recruits and their families and sharing their stories. And I picked the perfect time because there's a lot of interest in Florida. I was told that the fan base, Ryan, was apathetic because of the season didn't go as planned last year. And, our traffic is through the roof. And, On3 is a lot of people that came over that we helped build 24/7. So it's a lot of the same dynamics in play here. And so, we're ready to get rolling. We're loving it. We've got a company that's on the rise. We think we can dominate the marketplace in the next few years. We hope so, anyway.
Yeah, I certainly enjoy the coverage that On3.com is providing, and particularly in the last 48 hours, Keith. Let's dive right in. Let's start with the bad. You thought it was going to be a really bad day on Saturday when Austin Simmons reclassifies the quarterback from 2025 to 2023. And, oh, by the way, he flips from Florida to Ole Miss. Now, Gator fans, I think, are spinning that, and, well, maybe he saw the writing on the wall with DJ Lagway already committed. But what did you make of that whole situation, Keith?
Well, look, first of all, I got dragged into something last week. It was kind of, I guess, not funny if you're a reporter to be quoted for saying something you didn't say. But, I spent some time in Gainesville a week ago, and the feeling there was that they felt good. I mean, the reclassification part was done. So when his father refuted that part of the report, later in the week, I knew that wasn't the case, but everybody knew he was going to reclassify behind the scenes, and Florida felt good. I don't think they feel like it's the end of the world. I mean, look, he was coming in, he would have provided some quality depth, but he's 17 years old. Wow, he's very bright and very talented. To assume that he would have challenged for any kind of playing time in year one. You talk about Graham Mertz all you want, but that's a veteran of the college football game, and a 17-year-old's just probably not going to come in and beat him out. He visited Ole Miss a couple weeks ago, went well, heard what he wanted to hear. Remember, he wants to play 2 sports. He's also a pitcher. I think he throws in the low, maybe mid-90s. He's a lefty. There's a high priority I can't get that word out, Ryan. Priority on those guys. So he's going to play both sports up there. Going to try, obviously. It's not an easy thing to do when you're playing football and baseball, especially when you're a QB. And so, I think that it's a great pickup for Ole Miss, but for Florida, I don't necessarily think it's the end of the world because you've got DJ Lagway coming in next year. Now, what it does is now you've got to kind of address the overall QB room again, because you have to have certain numbers. You have to have a certain amount of guys on scholarship, a certain amount of guys you think are capable of winning games. So you could potentially see Florida maybe hit the portal again next year to make sure there's enough pieces in place, enough depth pieces at the very least. And look, if Graham Mertz I think he has the option of maybe coming back another year as well. I mean, there's a lot of pieces in play, but Lagway may not be the only QB joining the team between now and next year. And I think he's fine with that either way. Look, they're trying to build a program. And, if you're the quarterback, you can't selfishly think that there's going to be limited spots filled at QB just because you're there. It's all about each room being better. You know what I mean?
Keith Niebuhr on 3.com. That's the number 3 on 3.com. So Simmons going to Ole Miss, that was the bad part of Saturday. And then over the next 9 hours, Florida got 4 commitments in the top 300 in the nation. And Keith, the interesting thing to me was not one of them was from the state of Florida. One from Maryland, in fact, the number one player in Maryland, one from North Carolina, and a couple from Georgia. So Billy Napier really going outside the state to bring in a lot of talent.
Well, a few thoughts here. First of all, I want to apologize. I got a little distracted over the last couple of minutes. I was getting texts from my boss, so I always start freaking out, lose my train of thought. So I hope I got you through those couple of minutes there. But yeah, they really picked it up. So what's happening is in the state of Florida this year, it's not the strongest cycle we've ever seen in Florida. Let's put it that way. Now, there's plenty of good players. Don't get me wrong, and the Gators are after a bunch of them. But there's also good players in other states. And as Georgia recruits more nationally, that's opened the door for schools like Florida to go into go into the Peach State in Georgia and land more recruits. Now, here's the other thing you should know. It proves by going to all these states now that the brand is still fairly strong. The logo, the University of Florida logo is still strong to these kids. But when you look at who Florida beat out to land these guys, Aaron Childs was down to Maryland, Michigan, and Florida. Amir Jackson, the tight end, he had official visits set up that he still needed to take to Auburn and Miami. Amaris Williams, the defensive lineman in North Carolina, which, by the way, they call D-line heaven. A good friend of mine pinned that. That is a great state for defensive linemen. So Amaris Williams picked Florida over Penn State, which has been recruiting at an extremely high level. Nasir Johnson, another defensive lineman that Florida picked up, he's from Dublin, Georgia. He picked them over Florida State. And then today you've got a couple of extra players that Florida just landed. Mekhi Barrow is one of them. And that's the defensive lineman from Georgia. They picked up him over Georgia. So he's a 3-star guy. But you don't always look at the rankings. I mean, rankings are important. They are because they tell the whole story of your recruiting. But who did you beat? So they beat out Georgia to land Mekhi Barrow. And then also, finally, you just landed Marcus Maskell, an offensive tackle from the greater Atlanta area. His brother signed with Clemson a couple years ago. And Florida beat out LSU to land Marcus Maskell. So, who did you beat out? You beat out a lot of teams that you have to beat out if you want to make that progression, if you want to make that move up in the college football world. So very big weekend. I think Florida's up to 15 commitments now, and I consider this part of the weekend on Monday. 15 commitments, number 3 recruiting class in the country. And can I give you one stat? You mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Florida's got 44 kids have officially visited in June, and they weren't really picking up commitments until recently. So fans were starting to freak out a little bit. Of those 44, 7 were already committed to Florida. So let's just take those out of the equation. That leaves 37 other prospects that went to Florida either uncommitted or committed to other schools, right? So of those 37, Florida now on today's June 19th has landed 7 of the 37. That's almost 19% of the guys that were available. And so you start looking at not who committed on Sunday and Monday of that given weekend of official visitors. You look down the road each successive day and week and month. How many did my program land of all the guys that visited in that month? And if that number continues to climb, and we think it might, then you can look back and say, hey, we as a program had some real success in that month.
Couple of more for Keith Niebuhr. On3.com is where you can find him. Keith, you've covered recruiting for a long time. You obviously know how the cycles work. Landing 6 guys in less than 48 hours. How does something like that happen? I mean, obviously it looks like it was staged on Saturday. I mean, every 90 minutes, guys were sending out tweets.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of that to it, but I will say this. So we're getting toward the end of June. And this is now the big month of recruiting in college football. And so why weren't there a ton of commitments the first weekend? Because kids still wanted to take other visits. Well, now we're getting deeper into the month. A lot of these guys, this was their 3rd official visit weekend. Some of them are only going to take 2 or 3. The guys are going to take 4 and 5. Well, they haven't committed yet. So as the month, it kind of a confluence of events, the perfect storm, so to speak. All these kids they've taken enough visits. They knew going into the month, here are the schools I'm really, really looking at. And then once you start to get a couple commitments, then all of a sudden, not a couple, once you start to land 10 or more, let's say, as a program, then all of a sudden the program, the power starts shifting toward the program because guess what? Spots are filling up. How bad do you want to be here? Okay, you want to play this game? You want to go into the fall? We'll just take somebody else. And so it becomes this what do you call it? It's an inflection point, I guess, is what I'm saying, where the momentum kind of shifts from the power from the player to the program. So as Florida started picking up more commitments, other guys that were looking at Florida knew that, gosh, they're starting to run out of spots, and they're in my final 2 or 3. So let me start really zeroing in on this decision and locking it in. And so, and then also, I have to tell you, we're getting a lot of rave reviews like I haven't heard before on how well these official visits are being run over in Gainesville. So credit to the staff for that. Billy Napier, obviously, but the assistant coaches, the off the field people, Katie Turner, Jacob LaFrance. I mean, there's too many to name, quite frankly. They've got such a giant staff over there. But the reviews from the parents, from the players, everybody, all from the top down, has been nothing but positive. So everything seems to be working right now. Look, they only went 6-7 last year. If they ever start winning big under this regime, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with on the recruiting show. Okay, look, they're recruiting at a high level right now. We're starting to see more wins against good programs. Now the next step is wins against the elite programs. When you start recruiting, when you get in that ring against the elite programs, you're going to take some body blows, right? You're not going to win them all. You're going to be lucky to win 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. But you got to get in that ring. You have to, because where Florida is right now and where it wants to be and needs to be are two different places. To get there, you've got to get in the ring and you've got to start winning some of those big battles. So that's the next step for Florida.
You know, Keith, as we begin to wrap up, I think you brought up a great point, and it's one that I've talked about here on my show, the disconnect. I mean, the expectation coming into 2023, I got Gator fans telling me they would sign up for 7-5 right now.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of expectations on the field this year, yet Napier's cleaning up on the recruiting trail. So it just seems odd to me that the low expectations on the field are not affecting what he's doing on the recruiting trail.
Well, as you're entering year 2, there's still you're still selling dreams, and selling dreams in the sense that you had one year that wasn't incredibly great. Let's put it that way. And so, but people know it takes time, and I think they've been upfront with people. Look, this is a rebuild project, but we as a program need people like you as a player to catch the Georgias, Alabama, Clemson, LSU's, Ohio States of the world. So. They all want to play early. You've got NIL now. That's a factor. I mean, if it was just as easy as winning, if only the winning teams, the teams that won a lot of games recruited well, then there'd never be any turnarounds, right? I mean, you have to have to look at it that way. I mean, some of the teams that are really good right now weren't so great a decade or two ago. And, Georgia had losing seasons. Bama had losing seasons. Clemson was just the team that went 8-4 every year. And so it sometimes you just gotta do everything else right and convince people that this is the place to be. You've got the educational part that is working in your favor at Florida. Kids like the staff. I mean, there's a lot of things working in their favor, and there's also some things working against it. Now, if they have another season that's not so great, maybe it becomes a little bit more of a challenge next year. But right now, kids see Florida. The logo's still strong. They like the coaching staff. They like that Florida's got a 5-star quarterback in the class, DJ Lagway, and they think that they can play early. So, they're using that to their advantage.
Keith, as we say goodbye, I want to tell the good folks here in Jacksonville one more time about On3.com. Before we get there, we've seen 6 commitments in the last 48 hours. Anything else Gator fans need to keep their eye on, say, over the next week or so?
It's hard to tell. I mean, Jeray Hawkins, a receiver from Bradenton, Florida's IMG Academy, he's going to have a decision next week. It could be Florida, but it's Florida-Penn State. It could go either way right now. Some of it may depend on which school pushes the hardest in this last week. Another receiver to keep an eye on is TK Abrams, who's a Florida State commitment from Fort Myers. He visited Florida over the weekend. He's going to Florida this coming weekend. Ty Hilton's an offensive lineman from Oviedo, Florida, in the Orlando area. He visited Florida this past weekend. He'll be in Tallahassee this weekend. So I think those are 3 key guys to keep an eye on.
Keith Niebuhr of On3.com. All right, Keith, for Gator fans here in Jacksonville that like what you're saying, want to hear more of it, want to follow you, where can they find you? What can they look forward to at On3.com?
I think they just need to go to GatorsOnline.com. We got a bunch of VIP stories, but we also have a bunch of free stories for you to read every day.
GatorsOnline.com. Keith Niebuhr does a terrific job covering recruiting. He's back in the Sunshine State, and we're better for it. Keith, really enjoyed the conversation, man. Been following you for years. This hopefully will not be the last time you and I talk. Really appreciate it, brother.
Anytime, man.
This just in on Hacker After Dark.
All right, so the Gator recruiting is just in another world right now. Literally, we recorded that interview with Keith about an hour ago, And within the last 10 minutes, Florida has gotten another commitment, this time from a 5-star outside linebacker, Jamonta Waller, the number 1 ranked player in the state of Mississippi. Chose the Gators over Auburn and Penn State. Ole Miss and Alabama were also in play. That is 7 commitments for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators since lunchtime on Saturday. 1 5-star, 4 4-stars, 2 3-stars, 5 of the 7 ranked among the top 250 players on 247sports.com. And again, the number 1 player in Maryland, Aaron Childs, commits to Florida on Saturday. Tonight, the number 1 player in Mississippi, Jamonta Waller, commits to the Gators. So Florida has not had a 48-hour stretch like this on the recruiting trail. Good grief. I mean, I don't think Mullen had anything like this. I know McElwain did, and you might have to go back to Muschamp to have 5 top 250 players all verbally commit in a 48-hour stretch. Whatever they're doing in Gainesville is certainly working right now. They're in the top 5 of basically every recruiting ranking board. Now, will these last? Again, these are just verbal commitments. If Florida struggles in 2023, will these commitments stick? You would like to think so if you're a Gator fan. But for the here and now, on June 19th, Billy Napier is doing some work. Absolutely fantastic stuff if you support the Florida Gators with what Billy Napier is doing. And if you're Mario Cristobal in Miami, they got one today as well, but you might start scratching your head a little bit. Same thing with Florida State. Florida's in the top 5 of all these recruiting websites, whereas Florida State's outside the top 15. Miami's outside the top 20 for whatever that's worth here in the middle of June. More on that. We're going to go on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, a little NFL talk as well. But Denmark, is it my understanding that we have something to give the good folks that listen to Hacker After Dark here on a Monday evening?
Yeah, I got a pair of tickets to the UFC fight this Saturday at the arena. Give me a call at 641-1010. You can watch our locally owned Austin Lane this Saturday at the arena.
Austin Lane, big fan of Austin Lane, now that we can actually say his name. There was a few years there, Denmark, we weren't allowed to say the name Austin Lane. Now we can at the UFC, so certainly rooting for him.
Any advice on him for this Saturday? How does he win a fight?
I don't think Austin needs any advice.
Okay.
I've seen Austin. I've seen some highlights of Austin in the ring. I think he does just fine without any advice from yours truly. I mean, I'm a UFC aficionado, as you know, Denmark.
Yeah,
There's
you win
no
on the
question.
ground, right?
Yeah, there's absolutely.
You don't do the boxing. You got to win on the ground.
It's all about making somebody tap. That's what you need to do. But Jacksonville, Florida, if you want to go Saturday night to see Austin Lane, among many others, down at the arena, be caller number 4 right now at 641-1010, 641-1010. We will take caller 4 and get you tickets to Saturday night and the UFC. More on the Jaguars and the NFL as we roll on a Monday night edition of Hacker After Dark.
Summertime fun.
Singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long.
Now that's hot. 1010XL.
Duck Duck Air Conditioning, a division of Duck Duck Rooter, is looking for experienced and dependable HVAC services technicians to join our growing team. Duck Duck Air Conditioning is committed to delivering the highest level of service to our customers. Successful candidates will be hardworking, dependable, possess strong problem-solving skills with at least 2 years of HVAC experience. Ready to get to work? Please visit our website at duckduckac.com and click on the careers page. We look forward to hearing from you. That's duckduckac.com.
Duck Duck AC is an equal opportunity employer. Go inside your home team's locker room with Jags beat reporter Hayes Carline.
Check out my blog at 1010XL.com.
So you can catch all the news and nuggets you need to know.
My blog is brought to you by Roland Reese Plumbing,
where quality and experience count. Find the middle of the fairway with your drives. Get the golf tips and talk to keep you straight.
That's a great tee shot.
On the Edwin Watts Golf Hour.
The Edwin Watts Golf Hour.
Saturday morning at 10 on 1010XL.
Summer is here, so while you're at the beach or on your bike,
Head on down to Sliders Oyster Bar in Neptune Beach, where you'll find the absolute freshest seafood in all of the 904. The biggest shrimp, the saltiest oysters, the freshest fish, all here at our newly renovated restaurant in Neptune Beach. Fresh seafood delivered daily by Safe Harbor, straight from the boat to your plate. Unique oyster specials daily, along with mixed cocktails from the bar. Come enjoy this beach vibe. Sliders Oyster Bar in Neptune Beach, locally owned by Safe Harbor Seafood.
Prosser here for Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. With the weather now hot as can be, look ahead and get that backyard ready for fall with a new open air or screened-in enclosure. Maximize the space you have and make it great with Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. They truly are the best in the business. So if you have the space and the idea, give them a call today. Lifetime Enclosures and Lifetime Flooring. Showroom just off Phillips Highway. Tell them Prosser sent you.
This is Hayes Carline for QC Kinetics. Remember when you were going to get that pain fixed this year? Well, the year is almost halfway over. If you're still dealing with that pain, enough is enough. Pills are not the answer. Surgery is not the answer. You need to call QC Kinetics today at 904-274-5522. Set up a free consultation in Mandarin or Ponte Vedra. The advanced regenerative medicine solutions at QC Kinetics can give you a life without chronic joint pain. You can do all those summer activities you love. How do they do it? By taking healing properties from your own body and applying them right into your achy joint. Your tissue can be repaired and restored naturally. You can have life-changing results without drugs, surgery, or downtime. If you have pain in your knees, back, shoulders, hips, enough is enough. Call QC Kinetics now, 904-274-5522. That's 274-5522.
Jacksonville is a great place to live. And if you love where you live, you should invest in it. That's why more and more people bank with One-to-One Financial, Jacksonville's hometown credit union. We invest every penny back into North Florida, backing the very best small businesses, nonprofits, and of course the family home. Why put your money with some big out-of-state bank when you can invest in where you love to live? One-to-One Financial, we're your hometown credit union. Sign up today at one-to-one-fcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
Find your why in your next career move at the First Coast YMCA. Everyone can get involved and make a difference in your community at the Y. And if you'd like to turn your passion into a fulfilling career, the Y is an equal opportunity employer and is now hiring youth program leaders, lifeguards, swim instructors, and more. Plus, Y staff enjoy benefits including free YMCA membership and free childcare while you work. Find your passion, find your why in a career at fcymca.org.
This is Hayes Carline for Kingfish Pest Control. Look, warmer weather now means mosquito, flea, and tick season is here. These pests are out for blood, but you don't have to let them win. Protect your home and family with Kingfish Pest Control. As a Kingfish customer myself, I know their products are safe for kids and pets. Plus, with a 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can relax knowing your yard is pest-free. Call today, mention the Jags to receive 10% off your initial service. That's Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jacksonville has some junk, and J-Dog is removing it. They're here to do the dirty work. You don't want to remove and dispose of large furniture or appliances yourself? Call J-Dog. Here now proudly serving you, removing junk from your home or business. They can even handle small demolition projects, and they're still donating local items to veterans in need. So let J-Dog do the dirty work for you. J-Dog Junk Removal. Veteran-owned and operated. JDog.com.
Business owners know Andy's Automotive and Truck Services for routine fleet maintenance or emergency repairs. Andy's offers after-hours and mobile service to minimize downtime and keep your fleet on the road. Visit andysats.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. This is Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Tom Petty, that is dedicated to Lane Kiffin out in Oxford, Mississippi. When Ole Miss had Austin Simmons, the quarterback, reclassified on Saturday flip his commitment from Florida to Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin took it upon himself to tweet out some Tom Petty song lyrics to take a shot at the Gators, obviously. Well, Billy Napier says, hold my beer, because he just went into Mississippi and got the #1 player of the state of Mississippi to commit to Florida tonight in 5-star outside linebacker Jamonta Waller. So here's to you, Lane Kiffin, from Billy Napier and everybody associated with the University of Florida. Again, that's 7 commitments for the Gators in the last 2 days, 5 of which are among the top 250 players in the country, according to 247sports.com. And it's really an interesting way to look at it. Denmark, you and I talked about this last week. Florida is actually not doing well in the Sunshine State, right? There are 20 players out of the top 50 in the state of Florida currently that are committed. Of those 20, only 2 are committed to Florida. Yet, in the last 2 days, Florida has gone up and gotten the #1 player from the state of Maryland. Tonight, the #1 player from the state of Mississippi. They've gotten 4 players from the state of Georgia and thrown in another player from North Carolina. Florida is getting guys from everywhere. I mean, DJ Lagway's from Texas, right? Xavier Filsamy, the safety, Texas. Miles Graham, another 4-star linebacker. Now, he's his family ties. He's Ernest Graham's son, but he's from the state of Georgia. We mentioned Aaron Childs from Maryland. Other commitments, Georgia, North Carolina, Georgia, Mississippi, Georgia, Maryland, and then, of course, Germany with the young man they got last week. So Denmark, Florida is now, I believe, #3 in the 247.com recruiting rankings. And of their 15 or 16 commitments, only 2 of them are from Florida.
Yeah, it certainly makes up for not getting guys here. I mean, obviously, you would like to have a lot of ties here. And, you know, I mean, obviously, Florida's a hotbed and a lot of guys come here. But, I mean, we're going to start calling this guy Blue Chip Billy.
Yeah, I mean, look, like the rivals, some Florida State fans that I know were calling him 3-star Billy last year and all this stuff. Sunbelt Billy. I mean, he had all these nicknames. And look, that's going to be the interesting thing over the next couple of months. I've said repeatedly, I don't think Florida's going to be very good. I'm not really breaking any news there, right? I don't expect the Gators to be very good in 2023. I've told you guys I would sign up if I'm a Gator fan. Of course, I'm not. I'm an objective broadcast journalist. But if I were a Gator fan, I would sign up for 7-5 right now. I'd say, give me a pen. I'll sign on the dotted line. 7-5, absolutely. Can they keep a top 5 or even a top 3 recruiting class intact if they lose 5 or 6 or 7 games? You got to give Billy Napier 3 years. I've always said that. Much like Mike Norvell, you got to preach patience. What he's doing on the recruiting trail in the last 48 hours is unlike anything we've seen at Florida since at least Will Muschamp. Mullen never did this. McElwain absolutely never did this. Billy Napier is doing it. The combination of the facilities, they've got their NIL situation in order now. Recruits like Billy Napier. They like that staff. They see there's a chance to play early. What they're selling at Florida right now is working. Will it continue to work if Utah beats you by 14 that opening night of the year? And then Tennessee beats you by 10, and if Kentucky beats you by 10, and all of a sudden you look up and the Gators are 2-3 or, 3-5, does this class stay intact? That will be what you need to follow. But for the here and now, on June 19th, can't ask much more from Billy Napier, Gator Nation. For those of you that didn't like the guy, that aren't high on the guy, what do you have to say now? Because the dude is cleaning up on the recruiting trail, and he has Florida in the top 5 on every recruiting ranking website in this country here on this Monday night, June the 19th. Coming up next, into the National Football League, let's switch gears. Let's talk Jaguars. Let's talk AFC South. Let's talk AFC as a whole. We're 1 month from training camps opening up all over the National Football League. Sam Monson, PFF, Pro Football Focus. He's one of their main writers. I like the work he does. He joins us next. Hacker After Dark on a Monday in Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us.
Dan Hicken.
Last night he's swimming in Jack Daniels, so now he can lead tall buildings in a single bound.
Jeff Prosser.
What if this is as good as it gets?
They are the Drill.
We call it the place to be. The place to be.
Mornings on 1010XL.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation. Light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to carlsondentalgroup.com. That's carlsondentalgroup.com for all of your dental needs.
If you've dreamt about a career in radio but don't know where to start, we've got great news for you. 1010XL has partnered with the Broadcasters and Sportscasters Mentoring Group to offer mentorship opportunities with one of our radio pros right here at 1010XL. Visit getintobroadcasting.com to grab your free report and learn about the training and tuition costs. Go to getintobroadcasting.com to grab your free report now.
Are you an electrician looking for better pay and benefits? Miller Electric Company has the industry-leading compensation package. Electricians are eligible for a signing bonus up to $1,000. Now, they're partnering with the Jaguars in their new performance facility, the Miller Electric Center. Miller Electric has opportunities for you to work on some of the most exciting projects right here in Jacksonville. Whether you're experienced or not, visit MillerCareers.com, an equal opportunity employer. That's MillerCareers.com.
All year long you'll be singing our song. Stay cooler with Bueller. At the head of our class we make it happen fast. Stay cooler with Bueller. For heating and air we always play fair. We make the difference 'cause we really care. Bueller Air. Stay cooler with Bueller.
This is Keith Catlin for Catlin Truck Accessories, and we are so blessed to be in business for over 100 years. Over 100 years of the best product and customer service means you can count on Catlin. From Rollin' Lock bed covers to Lear toppers to Cam Locker toolboxes, Catlin Truck Accessories has you covered when it comes to your truck or van. We do those too. Got a fleet of vehicles? We can outfit them all.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
One name, one location, 100 years. You can count on Catlin.
WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Life is about choices and the decisions you make. I'm David Robbins with Epstein & Robbins. If you're convicted of a DUI, you'll have to face severe consequences. Walking through the doors of the courthouse or appearing at a bond hearing can be extremely intimidating. Without the right lawyer, you're likely to make the wrong decision. Let our team help you make the right decisions in court. Epstein & Robbins, the right choice.
Epstein and Robbins, fighting for your rights since 1975.
Clearwater.
John, I can't even mow my side yard. It's so soggy. Man, my builder sucks.
Brent, calm down. This is a common problem in neighborhoods where houses are built too close together. You need gutters and a properly installed French drain that will soak up subsurface water. We can completely dry it up.
So I can take my builder off my speed dial now, huh?
Yeah, we got you, buddy. Let that builder bitterness go.
Clearwater irrigation and drainage too.
New and pre-owned firearms are always in stock at Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach. Want a new sidearm or rifle? Brands like Kimbar, Smith & Wesson, Sig Sauer, and Beretta. No lines, no hassle. Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jacks Beach.
For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Mark Watson with Hardball Creative, with answers to the questions I'm asked the most. Yes, we are local, and no, I'm not hiring an actor to read these commercials. Check us out at hardballcreative.com.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
Run to the Jacksonville Sharks for their fight against the Carolina Cobras this Monday, June 26th at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. With tickets as low as $15, you can't find this kind of affordable fun anywhere else. The Force will be with you. It's Sharks Star Wars Night. Kids 6 to 16, sign up for our youth football camp. Learn drills and skills from coaches and players. Shark Tank this Monday, June 26th, 7 o'clock at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. Call 904-621-0700 or go to jacksharks.com. And don't forget your lightsaber.
It's time to fire up the grill. Houston's Meat Specials of the Week. 10 pounds of fresh jumbo chicken wings, only $12.95. 2-pack pork spare ribs, only $1.99 a pound. And whole T-bone steaks at $5.95 a pound. Only at Houston's Meats, Main Street and 295.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. The Jaguars ending their mini camp OTAs in the book, and then training camp will begin on July 26th. Sam Monson of PFF Pro Football Focus, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Sam, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
Hey, Sam, we're good, man. Thank you for the time. You and I haven't talked since free agency and the draft, so certainly we want to look back on the Jaguars offseason. In totality, Sam, how would you assess what the Jaguars did over the last couple of months?
Yeah, I think they've had a solid offseason. Obviously, they're playing a little bit with house money in terms of maybe their biggest move, maybe their most significant move overall is something they did a year ago. You know, it's getting Calvin Ridley back for the first time after his suspension and the difference that could make to this team. Losing Jawan Taylor, I think, was a blow, but one that they would have seen coming and knew was going to happen. And given the money that he got for Kansas City, I think it was one that they were smart letting happen. You know, Taylor is a good player. I don't know that he's a great player, and the amount of money that was headed in his direction, I think, was definitely more than they would want to go to. So overall, I think they've had a pretty good offseason.
You know, it's interesting. I don't think 12 months ago we realized what we had with Doug Peterson. We certainly realize what we have now. What were your thoughts on Peterson a year ago, and how much do you think year two jump for Trevor Lawrence in his system, how much will that help this team moving forward?
Yeah, obviously Peterson's done a great job. You have to sort of look at the landscape before he arrived as well, though. You know, we've got a huge amount of just getting the Urban Meyer mess out of this franchise. And Doug Peterson obviously did his part in sort of cleansing the entire franchise and moving things in the right direction. But just getting rid of Meyer and going in any different direction would have made a significant difference. And then obviously Peterson brings his ability and his credentials and his experience on top of that. And that's why I think you saw them in the second half of the season really start to kick into a different gear and really take this thing in a new direction and potentially a really exciting one for Jags fans. But Peterson's been there. He's done it. He knows what it takes, and he's got, you know, experience developing quarterbacks as well. So I think it's really exciting time for Jags fans. What Peterson could do, particularly with Trevor Lawrence this season, with Ridley coming back into the fold, and what that offense could be.
Sam Monson, a Pro Football Focus, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Sam, Trevor Lawrence is going to have, we mentioned Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. I mean, not to get too far ahead of the story here, but that offense on paper looks like a top 10 NFL offense, does it not?
It does, yeah, and there's a lot of weaponry there. And I think from week 9 onwards last season, Trevor Lawrence was graded as one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the NFL in PFF grading, and that's without a guy like Calvin Ridley coming in. And, you know, we can debate just how good Calvin Ridley is, but he's a huge upgrade for this offense. The last time we saw him play, he was averaging 2.4 something yards per route run. Christian Kirk led the team last season with 1.7. So he had 51 targets, I think, in the 5 games in the season before he got shut down and suspended. So Ridley's one of the best route runners in the NFL. He can get open at all levels of the defense. And that's a huge addition to a team that is already doing good things on offense and getting success with the receivers that they already had in the building. So absolutely, I think that they should be very excited for where this team can go if they can make sure that that offensive line stays, at a viable level. I think Jawaan Taylor, as I said, it's the move that you had to make financially, but you got to make sure you don't suffer that kind of drop off, whether it's Anton Harrison, the rookie coming in, or, a guy like Walker Little trying to stave off that decline. They just have to make sure that offensive line does not collapse around Trevor Lawrence.
Well, there's no question that PFF has never been very high with Cam Robinson as far as the way he grades out, although he was probably the best of what they had left after Jawaan Taylor got left in free agency. Cam Robinson facing a suspension, although it's weird. Sam, we're in the middle of June, and the NFL hasn't announced anything with that. Do you find that odd like I do?
Yeah, it's definitely a little strange. And look, Cam Robinson is solid. Like he's not going to set the world alight. He's not an incredible player, but he's a solid starting caliber left tackle in the NFL. And if he's one of your starting five, and that's the sort of baseline, you're fine. That's not a bad place to be. The problem with Cam Robinson, at least as it goes with PFF grading and our sort of general tone towards him over his career, it's always been relative to expectations or draft status or the idea that he's a truly elite top tier tackle, which he's never really been.
What I think would be fascinating is if Walker Little's playing well at left tackle, if Anton Harrison is playing well at right tackle, what do you do with Cam Robinson if it is a 6-game suspension when he's eligible to come back? That'll be a question for the coaching staff later on in the year. Sam Monson, Pro Football Focus, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Sam, on the defensive side of the ball for the Jaguars, do you think they have enough over there to if the offense were to struggle defensively last year, they had some lapses, there's no question. Do the Jaguars have enough on defense to compete in the AFC?
No, I think they do, but it's down to how these young guys develop. I think that defense has had talent for a number of years and theoretically should have been, I think, a better group than it has been over that time. But now they need to start seeing the results from some of the really high investment they've made in terms of draft capital. Trayvon Walker was a guy drafted really where he didn't belong if you looked at his college production, but he got drafted there because of literally unprecedented athletic tools. We've never seen a player come into the NFL with that complete an athletic profile. And he flashed year one. We saw bits and pieces, but now he needs to show that he can put it together and become that dominant playmaker. And the same thing is true for a guy like Devin Lloyd. The first month of the season, he looked like a superstar linebacker right out of the gate. And then by the end of the season, he'd been benched and he was trying to earn his way back in terms of playing time. So I think the talent is there. The pieces are there for that defense to be a very good unit. But those young players consistently need to, take a step forward and really prove that they can be high-level impact playmakers.
I mean, when you're competing in the same conference as Mahomes and Herbert and Allen and Burrow, the Jaguars play all of those with the exception of Herbert. They play Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati. They play Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. My concern, Sam, is the pass rush, right? Josh Allen led the team in sacks last year with 7. DeJuan Smoot's gone. Arden Key's gone. Like you mentioned, Trayvon Walker, only 3.5. They have not signed a veteran edge rusher, so unless they know something that we don't, I think there is an issue there to affect the opposing quarterback.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on Trayvon Walker this year to take a big step forward. If you're going to take a guy like that, number 1 overall, he needs to hit. And if he doesn't, you're going to have a problem because you've gone out on a limb and, made that bet that he is going to be an elite pass rusher. And as I said, his college production, his college career never showed that he was going to be that guy. It's all based off the projection of what a guy with those athletic and physical tools can become, but he needs to become that guy.
Sam Monson does a terrific job at PFF.com. He's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Sam, since the last time you and I talked, it was a real changing of the guard in the draft. 3 rookie quarterbacks coming in to the AFC South. Let's begin with C.J. Stroud in Houston. Also, Will Anderson there, the defensive end position. What do you make of the Texans, and do you think they can compete in 2023?
They could. I think they have quite a broad range of outcomes. C.J. Stroud is an interesting quarterback. I didn't love him as a prospect. I had quite a lot of concerns about his play under pressure or beyond his first read. And the sort of the S2 cognition scores, I think, back that up and kind of spoke to that thing that you did see from tape. But Bobby Slowick, the new offensive coordinator coming over from San Francisco, he's a guy I think that understands how to get number one open. That's an offense that specializes in doing that as a general concept. So it's the right system. It's the right scheme for him to be in, for him to have any kind of success year one. But that is going to determine a big slice of how good Houston can become. And they've got sort of similar pressure on Will Anderson because of that trade that they made to get back and grab him that we just talked about with Trayvon Walker. Anderson is, I think, under a sort of undue volume of pressure now to be really good. Otherwise, the team, made a huge mistake. They took a big risk in trading back up for him when the sort of the positive EV move was to just sit there with next year's first round pick and make the best out of that.
And look, the Texans did sign a lot of veterans, right? Dalton Schultz among them. So we'll see what they have. Of course, they're lacking a wide receiver after trading Brandon Cook. Sam, that leads us to Indianapolis. Look, I like Anthony Richardson. One of my good friends here in Jacksonville has been training Anthony Richardson for a few years, so I'm rooting for the kid. But I can't get over the fact that he has less than 900 pass attempts in both high school and college combined. And now he's a top 5 pick in the National Football League. What's your thought on Indianapolis, and do they throw Richardson out there week 1 against Jacksonville, or would you ease him in and let Gardner Minshew get the first couple of games?
I think they probably are going to play him right away. I know there's a lot of people projecting him to start, later on in the year, but I think he'll start right away because they have a head coach in Shane Steichen who has just kind of run this game plan with Jalen Hurts, a guy who would not still be the starter if he was relying just on his ability as a passer from day one. The reason Jalen Hurts has become the player he has become is because they knew how to build around his running ability and use that to prop him up and to buy him time to develop as a passer. That's what Richardson is going to have to do because he isn't right now ready to be a high-level NFL passer unless he's taken some massive steps forward in his sort of personal training, which is entirely possible given what you said about how inexperienced he is. It's very plausible he can take huge leaps forward simply based off working on it because he is extremely inexperienced and new to the position. So Richardson, I think, is a fascinating quarterback, but if it holds to the Jalen Hurts kind of timescale, we're not going to see, the best of what he's capable of until year 2 or year 3. Year 1 is just going to be about viability and getting him live reps during games.
Indianapolis has a lot of talent, certainly with Taylor, Pittman, Pierce, defensively Buckner and Leonard, but can they get something from that quarterback position? That brings us to Tennessee. I guess conventional thinking, Sam, is Tennessee might be the biggest challenger to Jacksonville, yet boy, I don't know if they're in a rebuild, a retooling. They let a lot of their veterans go. They brought in a lot of young guys. They're still paying Ryan Tannehill like $1 billion. I don't know if they're getting return on the investment there. What's your thought on the Titans?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't think they know if they're rebuilding yet or not. They've sort of had their finger poised on the trigger of a rebuild all offseason and haven't ever really pulled that trigger. They're kind of still hovering there and don't quite know if they are fully rebuilding or if they're just trying to tread water or what exactly they're doing. I think a big part of it is going to be what kind of development, what kind of ability Will Levis shows in practice. Getting him at the top of the second round, I think, is a perfect spot for both him and the team. But if he looks good, if he looks like he's learning and developing and working out some of the problems that he had in his game, that might persuade them to, plan now what that looks like, this complete reboot of the franchise and moving on from Tannehill and turning it over to Will Levis. On the other hand, if he doesn't look like he's going to be the guy, if he doesn't look like he's capable of taking that job over, then they might try and kind of muddle through for another couple of years with Tannehill.
Final moment, Sam Monson of Pro Football Focus. Sam, on paper, it looks like the Jaguars' division. I mean, would you say that in football terms it might be a football catastrophe if the Jaguars don't win this? Something would have to go horribly wrong, correct?
Yeah, I think it's definitely their division to lose. They should be easily the favorites in the division. I think there's a couple of teams in there that do have a pretty broad range of outcomes, and maybe one of them hits the high end of those that range and ends up becoming a real challenger. But yes, it should be Jacksonville's division unless a combination of a really bad year from the Jags and one of those teams being unexpectedly good takes place.
Sam, final question. Where do you have the Jaguars within the AFC?
I mean, I think the problem is the AFC is absolutely loaded. So clearly they're not in the same conversation as the true elite contenders, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, the ones we expect to really be fighting for a Super Bowl. But I don't see any reason they can't force their way into being that next tier down, in with the Dolphins, the Jets, the Chargers, the Ravens, any of these teams now that are trying to just make the playoffs first and foremost, and then try and compete with the truly elite teams at the top.
The NFL did the Jaguars a huge favor. They get Kansas City at home. Obviously, that was pre-planned. Cincinnati at home. The fact that Buffalo loses a home game to Jacksonville and that game gets played in London, if I'm a Bills fan, Sam, I'm not very happy about that. I've talked to folks in Buffalo. They like the fact they get a London game, but they did not like the fact it was Jacksonville because they would like to play them in New York as opposed to in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not ideal for them. Anytime you're losing a home game against a team that is a formidable opponent, it's not ideal. The problem is half the AFC at this point, more than half the AFC, is a very formidable opponent at this stage. That conference is so completely loaded in a way I don't think we've necessarily seen before. I know the NFC had a run years ago where it was incredibly strong, but this is as lopsided as we've seen the conference setup, I think, since the NFL has been in existence, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a massive disparity there. Sam, leave us with this. Tell the good folks in Jacksonville what they can anticipate when they head on over to Pro Football Focus, PFF.com.
Yeah, well, it's ranking season over at PFF at this point. We've hit the slow, long months of June and the summer, and so we're taking stock and ranking positions, ranking position groups, all kinds of fun stuff.
Sam, you do a terrific job. Know you're very busy. Thank you for the time. We'll do it again soon.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
1010XL puts the ball in play-by-play.
Kick on the way!
Impeccable today.
From way downtown. That ball's ripped.
For play-by-play, it's 1010XL.
Here's Linda Beaver.
We know that you have options when it comes to buying or servicing your vehicle. We also know that not all experiences are created equal. We promise when you choose to do business with Beaver, you will always get a genuine smile when you arrive, commitment to what you need to accomplish with your purchase or service, and lifelong relationships with a team that cares. Pair all that with a huge selection of inventory. You can't go wrong with Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine or Beaver Chevrolet in Jacksonville. We promise we're here to wow you.
Here's your 1010XL First Coast Community Calendar.
Dreams Come True is the only local wish-granting organization giving dreams and special times to local children battling life-threatening illnesses. Find out how you can help at dreamscometrue.org.
City Rescue Mission provides life-changing support for the homeless. Find ways to get involved at crmjax.org.
Her Song is a nonprofit organization that breaks the cycle of human trafficking through survivor care, victim outreach, and education. Find out how you can help at hersong.org.
If you could benefit from a grief and loss support group, call Haven Hospice at 279-1677.
The 5-Star Veteran Center of Jacksonville is the place homeless veterans can go to recover, recharge, retrain, and reconnect. Learn more at 5starveterancenter.org.
If you're involved in a community event and you'd like us to help spread the word, find out how at 1010XL.com.
Duck Duck Air Conditioning, a division of Duck Duck Rooter, is looking for experienced and dependable HVAC services technicians to join our growing team. Duck Duck Air Conditioning is committed to delivering the highest level of service to our customers. Successful candidates will be hard-working, dependable, possess strong problem-solving skills with at least 2 years of HVAC experience. Ready to get to work? Please visit our website at duckduckac.com and click on the careers page. We look forward to hearing from you. That's duckduckac.com.
DuckDuck is an equal opportunity employer.
Men suffering from ED or PE, you'll see instant results on your first visit at Prime Men's Medical Center. For a limited time, your initial consultation and first treatment are totally free. You'll even get a gift that enhances performance in the bedroom. Call 904-664-8217.
Give us your hot take.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
On the 1010XL text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm awake and I speak English, so yeah, I do know what you're saying.
Be part of the conversation. 641-1010.
Hey, it's Joe C, and we want to see who can challenge me and the XL Primetime Gang for the Sonny's Barbecue Rib Eating Contest, live right here at the 1010XL Studios. Text the word rib to 641-1010 for your chance to enter in Rib Mania for America as we gear up for America's birthday. Contest will be live on air June 27th, and you can be part of all the action. Thanks to Sonny's Barbecue for providing the ribs. We just need you to see if you can beat us. Text RIB to 641-1010 for your chance to enter.
Servicing every customer like they're famous. But what does that mean for you? It comes down to the famous philosophy. You'll find a consistency at all 20 locations in friendly service, honest pricing, and realistic time expectations. They know when you find someone you trust to maintain your vehicle, keep it running right, and lasting longer, you'll stick with them. And that's the famous philosophy at Famous Automotive in Quick Lube. Ask about a fleet account for your business.
Hey, it's Matt Hayes, and I said yes to Yass, Dr. Mitchell Yass, and the Yass Method. Now I know, you've probably tried medications, treatments, injections, even surgery. Maybe the reason you're still in pain is because they're treating the wrong thing and not addressing the root causes. Well, I know from personal experience, this does happen. But I found the best kept secret in pain elimination, Dr. Yass and the Yass Method. Call them today, 904-906-YASS, and say yes to Yass. Summertime is here, and it's time to cast those worries out. And Royal is here to help you do that with our Summer Termite Special, featuring Centricon. Starting at just $249. That's right, I said $249, and that's installed.
Visit RoyalPestServices.com.
Are you suffering from chronic joint pain like Heather?
I have terrible arthritis and have had it for quite a while, and I've gone to all kinds of doctors trying to figure out what to do, and everybody just said surgery, and surgery was months of rehab, and I didn't want to do that.
But then Heather discovered QC Kinetics, local medical professionals who specialize in natural biologic treatments, non-invasive solutions designed to repair and restore damaged tissue in your joints. And she absolutely loves the results.
I like to tell anybody who's suffering that there are options that are not steroids, that are not surgery. You owe it to yourself to find out about QC Kinetics and find out what they can do for you.
No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. Discover QC Kinetics and learn more about natural biologic treatments with lasting results.
Call QC Kinetics, 904-274-5522. That's 904-274-5522. Don't wait. Call QC Kinetics today, 904-274-5522.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars, protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555, Jacksonville. It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And again, thank you to Sam Monson, Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, for joining us tonight. Coming up in less than 15 minutes, we kick off our AFC West preview this week. We'll go to all four teams. We will go to Los Angeles. We will go to Las Vegas. We will go to Denver. But tonight, we start with the defending world champion, Kansas City Chiefs. My friend Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Let's talk Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, a little Jawan Taylor as well, right? $20 million a year is what Jawan Taylor got to leave Jacksonville and go out to Arrowhead. So we'll talk Kansas City Chiefs heading into the year as our AFC West preview begins this evening. As always, Hacker After Dark is streaming for your viewing pleasure both on Twitter and YouTube. Just search 1010XL on YouTube. You'll see the show there until 10 o'clock tonight. Likewise on Twitter. At 1010XL on Twitter, you'll see the show streaming live there until 10 o'clock this evening. Big story of the night is the Florida Gators and the recruiting trail. And look, If you're not a recruit, Nick, I understand. If you don't follow recruiting, I get it. But this is at least to all the people that were down on Billy Napier, Gator fans and non-Gator fans alike. Billy Napier's in over his head, Sunbelt Billy, 3-star Billy, all the things that have been said about Billy Napier after 1 year on the job at Florida. You might well be right, and Billy might be in over his head, and maybe in a year or two, there's a completely different conversation. But for the here and now, on June 19th, 2023, the Florida Gators are doing something on the recruiting trail that they have not done in over a decade. In the last 48 hours, they have landed 7 prospects, 5 of which are ranked in the top 250 players in the country. They got the number 1 player from the state of Maryland. Tonight, they get the number 1 player from the state of Mississippi. And it's like I said in hour number 1. It's not so much the player nor the position, right? Because I would be lying to you if I said I could really go in depth about these high school seniors. That's why we have folks on. That's why we have Andrew Ivins of 24/7 Sports, Keith Niebuhr of On 3, David Waters, Gators Breakdown, who we'll probably have on at some point tomorrow or Wednesday. So, David, if you're listening, your phone will be dialed here sooner rather than later. That's why we go to the source. But what I look at and what you should look at is who is Florida beating for these guys? Well, in the last 48 hours, Florida beat Florida State for a 4-star defensive lineman. Florida beat Michigan for a 4-star linebacker. Florida tonight beat Auburn, Penn State, and Ole Miss for a 5-star edge rusher. Florida also beat Miami and Auburn for a defensive lineman. And Florida beat LSU for an offensive tackle. And that's just in the last 2 days. That was not happening. Florida was getting their hat on the table, right? Harold Perkins, among others. Florida was in the conversation, but they were not getting the ultimate result, which was a commitment. Now, not only is their hat on the table, their hat is being put on. And it's been put on recently by the number 1 ranked player in the state of Maryland, who chose Florida over Michigan, in Aaron Childs. And it got chose tonight by the number 1 ranked player in the state of Mississippi, Jamonta Weiler, who chose Florida, again, over Penn State, Ole Miss, and Auburn. So if you were down on Billy Napier, tonight's not the night to do that. Because what Billy Napier has done on the recruiting trail has not been done in Gainesville since Will Muschamp 10-plus years ago. Back into the National Football League. We'll go all over the AFC West this week. We will begin with the world champions. Can they do it again out in Kansas City? Let's talk Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Jawan Taylor, and more with my friend Soren Petro. He is the afternoon host on Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City, and he joins us next. It's Hacker After Dark on a Monday evening in Jacksonville, Florida, and we are glad you are with us.
He won 3 national titles at Miami, played in a Super Bowl with the Steelers, and went to the Pro Bowl with the Jaguars.
Are you serious?
Yes! Pull up a chair for Lunch with Leon. Leon Searcy on XL Primetime on 1010XL.
Hey, this is Jason with Bueller Air Conditioning. Why do we love to go to that awesome grocery store where shopping is a pleasure? Why do we choose that amazing chicken sandwich where the service is fast and friendly and it's always their pleasure? You see, those brands are a promise. Here at Bueller Air, our team is committed to serving the customer and delivering that same kind of brand promise. Our mission is to be the most trusted brand with friendly and professional service every single time. Give us a call today or visit BuellerAir.com.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, trunk lids, license plate holders, and headlights. They've got lots of headlights. When you need parts, get it right the first time with eBay Guaranteed Fit. When you see the check, you know that part's gonna fit. eBay Motors. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Find your why in your next career move at the First Coast YMCA. Everyone can get involved and make a difference in your community at the Y. And if you'd like to turn your passion into a fulfilling career, the Y is an equal opportunity employer and is now hiring youth program leaders, lifeguards, swim instructors, and more. Plus, Y staff enjoy benefits including free YMCA membership and free childcare while you work. Find your passion, find your why in a career at fcymca.org.
Do you have a VA loan? In this housing market, homeowners with VA loans have access to a ton of instant cash. Hey, it's Prosser here. Do you need cash to pay off credit cards and other high-interest loans? Does a check for 80 or 90 grand sound about right now? Well, Loan Pronto is helping veterans every day get the money they need with a quick and easy zero-cost cash-out refi with zero closing costs. With a VA loan, it's really cool because you can access up to 100% of your home's value. Use that money to pay off credit cards, home equity lines, car loans, consolidate all your payments into one check per month, and close in 2 weeks. Most homeowners who do this end up cutting their overall monthly payments by $800. Loan Pronto's all-digital process makes it fast and easy. They're doing loans with super low APRs, and they love working with veterans. Call now to see what your options are. Call Loan Pronto at 999-1508. That's 904-999-1508. Or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Mia O'Brien.
Fun-loving girl.
Weekdays on XL Prime Time.
Likes to laugh. Lives to love. No dull moments tolerated.
Mia's quick hits are driven by Arlington Toyota on the video and social channels of 1010XL.
Saturday, June 24th, the UFC returns to Jacksonville. The heavy-handed Josh Emmett looks to turn back undefeated phenom Ilia Topuria. Plus, dangerous Brazilian Amanda Ribas takes on the future Macy Barber. Don't miss UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Topuria, live from VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com.
Hacker here for the Sausage Dudes. Look, you know I'm a sausage guy. And the Sausage Dudes, Paul and Patrick, make some of the best sausage I've ever tasted. Their high-quality pork and spices separate the Sausage Dudes from the pack. Try their 4 flavors, including Italian, Polish, Hungarian, and beer bratwurst today by picking them up at any Publix in the Jacksonville area. The 4th of July is right around the corner. So head to Publix now to get your hands on the Sausage Dude sausage, the sausage partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Are you embarrassed by your ugly, cracked concrete driveway? Need to enhance your home's curb appeal? Stonecore on Phillips Highway is your one-stop shop for all your outdoor needs. Replacing with new stone pavers will transform your driveway into a stunning work of art. Say goodbye to unsightly concrete and hello to beautiful, durable pavers that last for years. Visit Stonecore today and let's beautify your home together. Stonecore.co. We do outdoors better.
The IRS has just received $80 billion in funding to hire additional agents for aggressive collections enforcement. If you owe the IRS, now is the time to take action before the IRS comes after you or your business. There's no time to waste. Call J. David Tax Law, a firm right here in Jacksonville, for a no-cost consultation at 904-507-4777. That's 904-507-4777. Or visit jdavidtaxlaw.com. Peace of mind is only a click or phone call away.
Does your home or building need painting? For over 20 years, Performance Painting has had the privilege of preserving many of Jacksonville's most prominent buildings. That said, we feel like we're just getting started. I'm Jason Parker, and our team thrives on preparing, protecting, and preserving the homes, businesses, and public buildings that make up our local landscape. Contact us today to put our years of experience to work for you. Performance Painting. Prepare, protect, preserve.
Performance Painting. 1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
Back here on 1010XL at 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. As our AFC West preview kicks off, we will make stops in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas, and in Denver. But tonight, we kick it off, of course, with the defending world champions who just got their Super Bowl rings late last week, the Kansas City Chiefs. And, of course, former Jaguar Jawan Taylor now resides out there in KC. Our guy out in Kansas City is Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in the Kansas City area, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Soren, how you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you?
Soren, we're good, buddy. Thank you for the time. And all right, Super Bowl rings. The banquet looked like it was an awful lot of fun, but in listening to Patrick Mahomes last week, that's it, right? They had their fun last week, and now it's all turning the page to 2023.
Yeah, that's what Patrick Mahomes said last week, that, hey, listen, one more night to celebrate and enjoy what we did, and then it's on to next year. Of course, obviously with OTAs and mini camps and a draft and an off season, the process has already begun. You mentioned getting Jawan Taylor. So they're down the road, but Patrick Mahomes has been pretty serious about each and every season once they begin, and for him, certainly the starting gun has been fired.
You know, you mentioned Jawan Taylor. Let's begin there, just the local tie to Jacksonville. We were told at the time, Soren, potentially a left tackle move for Jawan Taylor. They're certainly paying him a lot of money, yet come to find out maybe that's not the case. What is the ultimate plan out there with Jawan Taylor for the Chiefs?
Yeah, I think this is an example. You know, we talked to Brett Beach, and December is when they're putting together their free agent plans, and he's always said, listen, we have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. I think plan A was, let's be frank, was to re-sign Orlando Brown, was to stay with it. They offered him what they thought he was worth this after dancing that dance a year ago and then having him play under the franchise tag. He wanted to shop that offer elsewhere, and the Chiefs were not going to be in a bidding war. They got into a bidding war with Trent Williams, kept going up and up and up, and ultimately it became clear to them that he wanted to play for the Niners and was just using them to get as much money as possible, and I think they decided they weren't going to play that game this time. So plan B, and not plan B as in they're a lesser team, plan B just is to, where to pivot and go next, because I think they always want to keep their guys that know the system and show loyalty. But if you want to make it a business decision, they'll do business as well. And plan B was to get Jawan Taylor. Now, I think in saying he would play left tackle was to, I think that was part of the equation. But if you have a plan B1 and a plan B2, plan B1 was to then keep looking and see if you could find a left tackle at an affordable price and keep Jawan Taylor where he's been comfortable in playing his whole career. Plan B2 was to play him at left tackle and then have a competition on the right side. I think when Donovan Smith became available from the Bucs and was willing to work with an incentive-laden deal that starts with a cap hit below $3 million, can go to $9 million, and can play the position he's used to, that's how Jawan Taylor ended on the right side. So I think there was a reality that he could have ended up on the left side if the Donovan Smith deal didn't come together. It did, and so now he'll play his comfortable side of the ball. But I do believe he is the backup left tackle should anything happen to Donovan Smith.
Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City, as our AFC West preview kicks off. Soren, we know the motivation is obviously there for Patrick Mahomes. He wants to be great. Andy Reid back for another run at this thing. But you cover this team every day. I mean, the success they've had, now 2 Super Bowl championships. Do you believe the motivation is as high now as it was, say, 4 or 5 years ago?
There are 16 players, and that includes guys like Austin Ryder that were on the practice squad last year that have 2 rings that were there for both of them. So, a large part of the roster is already turned over. I think there were 16 anyway that got to. Andrew Wiley has already moved on to the Commanders as a free agent. They'll probably have a little bit more attrition on that roster. So there's not that many guys. I think the key, though, is where is the organization, right? Like, I think they're thinking big picture and winning as many championships as possible. But Andy Reid, I think, is a guy that he's one of those, a coach is who he is. It defines who he is. I think as long as he has got health of any kind, I think he's going to coach and be motivated to coach. This drives him. I think he is kind of, I think you'll love it if you're an owner that he's this devoted to it, but maybe even a little bit miswired. Like I think maybe you should be satisfied. Like the Bill Parcells thing to me is like what quote unquote normal people do. You throw yourself into something, you achieve a level of success, and then you need a break, right? Then the itch gets you again and you dive back into another project. That, I think, is kind of what most of us would do, right? Andy Reid is the unique one that I think Bill Belichick's one of these guys. I think there were guys like, Bear Bryant back in the day. That just coaching is who they are, and it's what they're going to do if they can physically get themselves into the office. So I think there's no lack of motivation there. And I think Blaine Gabbert said it very well when he was at the podium this past week. And he said, after being the backup to Tom Brady and now seeing Patrick Mahomes, he said they're the two most maniacal workers. I can't remember if it's maniacal workers or maniacal competitors that are out there. And I think Patrick Mahomes is another guy that's kind of miswired. I think he's got a little bit of that Michael Jordan in him, to where if there isn't something to motivate him, he'll create it, right? And there always seems to be someone who wants to question him, whether it's Jamar Chase to go public and give him something that he can actually hang his hat on, or something that they have to kind of create themselves. I think Patrick Mahomes is that kind of competitor. So others in the organization, maybe, but I think they quickly are brought back into line when they see, one, what the boss does, and one, what the leader does. I think that drags everybody with them, whether they like it or not.
Well, I'm assuming Travis Kelce's been to the Northeast Florida area in the last 5 years and drank the entire fountain of youth, because that guy doesn't seem to be any different now than he was when he was 25. We know Tyreek Hill is long gone. Juju Smith-Schuster got a ring. He's now gone. I mean, what do the weapons around Patrick Mahomes look like? Kadarius Toney's going to probably play a big factor, but how does the receivers and the tight ends not named Kelce look coming into the year, Soren?
Yeah, and you're right about Kelce. And he is 33. He'll turn 34 in season. He's been around for a long time, but he was pretty young when he got there. So he may not be quite as old as some people think, but certainly a lot of football mileage on that tire for sure. And the Chiefs are certainly expecting and wanting and hoping that he's going to be the number one guy. Beyond him, I think you look to Marquez Valdes-Scantling to have a similar role. He had an opportunity when he and Juju Smith-Schuster were new to the organization. Sky Moore was a second-round pick last year to really grab hold of that number one job. He didn't do it last year. I don't know why you would think he would do it this year. I think he's a stretch-the-field guy, and as much as he wants to be more than that, I think that really is all that he is. So I would expect similar production from him. The hope comes in really three recent additions. One, Sky Moore going into year two. As I mentioned, a second-round draft pick from last year. A lot of times receivers will take a big jump in year two, sometimes even year three, but a lot of times in year two. And so I think there's hope that he will step up. Kadarius Toney is a former first-round pick of the Giants. Chiefs gave up third and sixth-round picks to get him. He came in mid-season last year, so the hope is that with an OTA, a mini camp, a training camp, he'll be up to speed on the offense, and he can realize that first-round potential that the Giants thought he had, and the Chiefs too. They were very high on him. Didn't have a first-round pick because they'd gotten Orlando Brown that year, but that, I think they have high hopes that he perhaps can fill that role as a number one receiver. And then Rashee Rice is a second-round pick this year from SMU. Presumably he's got a good connection with Patrick Mahomes, because leading up to it, Mahomes does throwing camps with all his receivers, takes them down to Texas, and then pretty much whoever wants to drop by can drop by, and a number of draft picks do, and Rashee Rice was one of them. So Patrick Mahomes got to throw with him in the summer before the Chiefs even drafted him, and so presumably he gave a good report on what Rashee Rice is. So I think it's those three guys, with Marquez Valdes-Scantling, but again, I think we've seen the ceiling on Valdes-Scantling. I think it has to be one of those three guys that you're hoping doesn't have to emerge and beat Tyreek Hill, but hopefully can be 900 yards and 6, 7, 8 touchdowns the way Juju Smith-Schuster was. At least replace that kind of production. It may be by committee, or maybe it's one guy that grabs a hold of it. We know there won't be an excuse of bad play calling, bad game plans, or bad quarterbacking, because those are certainly taken care of. They have every reason to shine. If they can do it, they'll do it in this offense.
Final moments here with Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Soren, defensively for the Chiefs, they're never going to get the headlines, but man, under the radar, whatever verbiage you want to use, that is a good defense out there, and that is the reason why, to me, as great as Mahomes is, without that defense, they don't win that Super Bowl a year ago. Frank Clark is gone. I know they've added some pieces as well, but how does the defense look coming into 2023?
I think there's a lot of optimism that at least regular season Frank Clark will be quickly replaced by Anyudike Uzama, who they drafted in the first round, the defensive end from K-State that they took at pick number 31. I think he steps right in. George Karlaftis finished with 6 sacks in his last 7 games. Last year's number 30 overall pick. And so I think they feel like Karlaftis improving, Anyudike Uzama coming on, that they've got a better pair of edge rushers than they certainly started last season with. They get more experience to their secondary. I think they feel like Mike Edwards is an upgrade over Juan Thornhill, who left in free agency. So they bring in the Bucks ball hawk safety. And the Chiefs, if they had a problem on defense, it was, turning good plays into takeaways. And they didn't have that really in the first half of the season. Second half of the season, they got more of it. They added Drew Tranquill from the Chargers. He may move Willie Gay out of the starting lineup, but certainly gives them a better 3 linebacker set as he comes over, a veteran that can really cover. And I think the one question mark, though, is Chris Jones. He did not attend mandatory mini camps. They've been talking about a contract extension for him. He did tweet before he no-showed mini camps, OTAs, which he no-showed OTAs last year. He did tweet out that, he wants to be a Chief for life. The Chiefs, to this point, the people I've talked to, do not seem concerned. They feel like there's a lot of time, but I don't think you see him in camp until a new contract gets done. And then the question becomes with, Quinnen Williams still out there to be signed by the Jets. I think they're kind of waiting his people to get Williams' number in. And then how close does he get to whatever Quinnen Williams gets, which will probably be more than Jeffrey Simmons, and how close to Aaron Donald, who right now makes $8 million a year more than any other defensive tackle. Is Chris Jones shooting for Aaron Donald money? Maybe this holdout gets sticky. Is he just looking to be definitively the number 2 guy? I think he gets done around the time camp starts or shortly after. But whether or not Chris Jones comes back is very important because he is the guy that makes the whole thing work on that side of the ball.
12 months ago when you and I did our AFC West preview, the thought then was, my goodness, it's going to be a gauntlet. Denver fell completely on their face. Las Vegas, much of the same. The Chargers were okay, probably a little overrated coming into the year, and then Kansas City was what Kansas City was. How do you look at it this year, Seren? Do you think the division has improved at all?
I do. I think Sean Payton improves the Broncos immensely. I think the buffoonery that was going on at head coach last year will be steadied. I think they will be better. I think they need to strike now because they're blowing up the salary cap room immediately. I mean, they are in a spend mode, which is understandable. Russell Wilson's not getting any younger. He's not a rookie quarterback. So you got to put the pieces around him while you think you've got the guy in place. And presumably Sean Payton will make him a better quarterback this year. And so I think there is a feeling they've added a lot of talent that the Broncos will be a much improved team. And, how much does Justin Herbert and the Chargers grow up? They've been on the brink. They've been a lot of people's pick and a lot of people's darling to take that next step. And they have given the Chiefs fits head to head. They've been able to handle business. They don't seem to be able to handle the other 15 games away from the Chiefs. Like I said, they've had a fair amount of success. They've taken the Chiefs to the limit, even beaten the Chiefs with Herbert, but they haven't been able to handle the rest of the regular season. New offensive coordinator for the Chargers. Again, you'd like to think if you're a Charger fan that will make them better. I think they're better. Raiders, I don't think are. So I think it'll be, the Broncos and Chargers carrying the weight. If either one of those teams, if anybody in the AFC West is going to realistically challenge the Chiefs, it'll have to come from one of those two teams.
Seren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. Seren, final question. Here in Jacksonville, we spent the entire offseason, how do we beat Kansas City? I'm sure they're doing the same thing on Cincinnati Sports Radio. They're doing the same thing with our friends at WGR 550 in Buffalo. How is Kansas City approaching the AFC this year? I mean, you look at the quarterbacks and you add Aaron Rodgers to it. I mean, it is just a unbelievable conference with quarterbacks, and they're all gunning for the same thing. How do we beat Kansas City?
Yeah, I think with the Tyreek Hill move, they signaled kind of phase 2 of the Patrick Mahomes here, and that is playing the long game. When you have a very expensive quarterback, you can't keep everything around him. So they've had to be judicious in what they've done with their cap, and I think that's how Juwan Taylor gets here. I think that Orlando Brown was asking for Trent Williams money. The Chiefs weren't willing to pay it. And so they went for Juwan Taylor. And I think a lot of people, listen, there are plenty of people in Kansas City that say $20 million for a right tackle is overpaying. And it probably is, but you're overpaying for anybody in free agency except for Drew Tranquill, who somehow they got for 1 year and $3 million. If you can get a player that needs a prove-it contract, Donovan Smith was a top 15 offensive tackle 2 years ago. Last year he battled injuries. His PFF grade dropped way down. Playing hurt. He didn't play his best football, so he signs a 1 year incentive-laden deal that can go from $3 to $9 million if he and the team, some of those incentives are team-oriented, hit all those parameters. Those are the kind of signings you have to do when you have the very expensive quarterback. And Patrick Mahomes, to his credit, has been on board with it. He did not cry or complain when Tyreek Hill left. Orlando Brown was a friend of his as well. No complaints from him. He understands the big picture. He wants to win. And so I think the Chiefs' plan has been to, be smart in what they do. Last year was probably supposed to be the Buffalo Bills Super Bowl. Eric Eager from Sumer Sports is a friend of mine, and I do podcasts with him. He calls it stealing someone else's Super Bowl. 19 was probably the Ravens Super Bowl. They were the team that was undefeated for the longest and out in front, and it took almost all season for the Chiefs to run them down. In fact, they weren't even the number 1 seed. The Ravens were, but the Ravens tripped up in the postseason. The Chiefs capitalized. I think they know that that's where they are, that they need to be effective in managing the cap for the long haul, because in any season, certainly in any game, they can win. And as long as they keep Patrick Mahomes healthy, and I think the injury to him in the postseason against the Jaguars scared them. That's why they went out and upgraded the tackle position. They continued, even though they had to watch another wideout and Juju Smith-Schuster walk away. They weren't standing pat. They had already added Kadarius Toney in season. They drafted another wideout high in the draft in the second round in Rashee Rice. So I think priority one is protecting Patrick Mahomes, giving him weapons, making sure that he is happy, and protecting him. Then it's to improve the defense, all with a really maybe an umbrella over it, that there are certain parameters within the cap that they won't go over, because as long as you have that Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, as long as you don't screw up the cap and have to strip a team down, you're a contender every year. And I think the Chiefs intend on maximizing that. So it's really not been a plan for this year. It's been a plan for the long haul that started with that trade of Tyreek Hill last year.
Jaguars see the Chiefs week 2, the home opener in Jacksonville, and that'll be some scene. Jaguar fans really excited about the opportunity to welcome in Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Our guy out in Kansas City is Soren Petro of Sports Radio 810. Soren, thank you for the time, brother. Know you're busy. We'll do it again soon.
Always my pleasure, Ryan. Thanks so much for having me.
And a big thank you to my friend Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City, as we kick off our AFC West preview this week with the defending world champions. We will go to Las Vegas. We will go to Los Angeles. We will go to Denver. But tonight it was all about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the Chiefs, who, of course, come into Jacksonville for the Jaguar home opener there on Sunday, September the 17th. Well, that'll just about do it for what has been a very busy Monday night edition of Hacker After Dark here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. Certainly appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. We got a lot of people to thank. Again, Soren Petro, Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City, breaking down Jawan Taylor, Patrick Mahomes, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Thank you to Sam Monson of PFF Pro Football Focus, as we talked a little Jaguars, a little AFC South, as training camps around the National Football League just over 1 month away from getting underway. And back in hour number one, Keith Niebuhr on 3.com. What a 48-hour stretch it's been for Billy Napier and the Florida Gators on the recruiting trail. 6 verbal commitments, and actually not one from the state of Florida. The best player in Maryland, in Aaron Childs, a 4-star. They've gone to the state of Georgia for 4 commitments in the last 2 days, and the state of North Carolina for a commitment as well. So 1 from Maryland, 1 from North Carolina, and 4 from the state of Georgia, as the Gators have added 6 new commitments since Saturday morning. We'll be back tomorrow night on a Tuesday, and it's our late night show. Are you kidding me, man? Where else would you rather be, Jacksonville, Florida, than right here with Hacker After Dark with Dylan Denmark and yours truly from 10 o'clock to midnight on a Tuesday, and we do hope that you join us then. Dylan Denmark was your producer tonight. Dylan, great job as always. I'm the Hacker, Ryan Green. And again, Jacksonville, thank you for spending part of your Monday evening with us right here on Hacker After Dark on 1010XL and 92.5 FM. So for all of us here on HAD, have an absolutely terrific remainder of your Monday evening, and we will do it all over again tomorrow night on a Tuesday beginning at 10 o'clock. Until then, good night, Jacksonville.
Sunshine.
I'm talking about the beach.
And sports talk.
This is what I'm talking about.
Living, loving life in the 904.
Oh, yes!
1010XL.
This month only, at Key Buick GMC, receive employee pricing for everyone on all 2022 and 2023 Buicks in stock and on the lot. Combine big savings with a low APR to fit any budget. We are the only Buick GMC dealership offering a lifetime powertrain warranty on every new Buick. Remember, we're the home of the no dealer markups, and remember as well to get your Buick ready for summer travel at our service headquarters. Fast and convenient. Key Buick GMC on the corner of Southside and Gate.
Children under 5 die from drowning in Florida more than any other state. Together, we can reduce the risk of drowning. The YMCA has programs accessible to families that teach essential water safety skills. Face the water with confidence. Learn more at watersafetyflorida.org.
Heading to the beach, looking for eats? ABBQ has you covered. You can grab some to go on your way to the beach or order from our website and get delivery right to your beach access. But why stop there? After a long day playing in the waves, stop by on your way home. Relax in our outdoor backyard or patio. So whether you're looking for a quick bite to go or want to relax and unwind with friends and family, ABBQ is the perfect spot for your beachside cravings. ABBQ, meet and drink with us.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On June 19, 1973, Pete Rose and Willie Davis both record their 2000th MLB career hit, a single over the Giants and a homer against the Braves.
Pickett here. After work's done for the day, I know you like to find your favorite sofa or recliner and watch the game. Well, me too. It helps all of us wind down for the day. But I bet you don't clean that upholstery too much, do you? That's why you gotta call my friends at Zero Res this month.